I would like to give a very great welcome to everyone who has come here today. Thank you very much for coming. As I have said before, that history is made by people who turn up, and you have turned up, and I'd like to thank you for that. Here we are, a few yards from what is this Pride Parade in Dublin. It's almost like under enemy occupation. Like Ireland is under foreign occupation when you think about it, because the currency, this euro, this poison in your pocket, is currency which is controlled not by Ireland, but it's controlled by the ECB in Frankfurt. Many of our laws are made not by Irish men and women in Dáil Éireann across the river. They're bought by a foreign parliament, by the European Commission, the European Parliament in Brussels. And this is not Ireland. And in regard to occupation, the north of Ireland is still occupied by a foreign power of Britain in the north. So in many ways, Ireland, the whole of Ireland, is under foreign occupation by either the European Union, by this LGBTIQ, and you see like the whole thing about planting the flag, like this whole thing of flags has significance, and they are important because everybody knows their significance, is that this is our area, this is where we dominate, and in this area we are in charge. The thing that really impacted me there during the lockdown was this: they had during this severe lockdown where people's basic freedoms were curbed, that we had this BLM march in maybe 6,000 people up and down O'Connell Street, like to draw attention to a guy, George Floyd, who was a career criminal, drug addict, and who held a gun to the stomach of a pregnant woman in the US, and this was suddenly, their hero was a guy, George Floyd. So in cultural terms, that we can see they were massively under the influence of America. So it's not just Brussels, it's not just Britain, it's not just the ideology of the LGBTIQ. And I seen someone today was talking about, we need a campaign for the separation of the state from the NGO complex. We know we'll get on to this, but I'll just finish on this NGO complex. We spend 5.9 billion per year on what is an echo chamber for the far left to influence government policy. It's massively funded. They have influence, and we need to cut that cord of funding from the taxpayer to these organisations, because their love, their priority is not Ireland and the people of Ireland. They are here to impose a foreign ideology, and our task as a people and as a party is to organise and get people up, ready and active, that we can reclaim Ireland for Irish people, and that we can be the masters of our own house and work for our own benefit. Because at the minute, and actually look at in the last few days, the last few weeks, you can see there, even though we as a party and the members have been speaking to their friends, trying to get stuff in the paper, being active on social media, putting up their comments, only in the last few weeks we see now for the first time that the TDs in the Dáil are voicing opinions like our own, drawing attention to, we can't house the world. There's too many Irish homeless people. Why aren't they being looked after first? There must be a cap on immigration. Ireland is full. These ideas that we've been enunciating in a quite a lonely fashion for 3 years, now they're starting to break through. And when you look at online comments beneath the article about Madame McGrath, Carol Nolan, and other TDs like that, well, certainly online, 90% of the people who comment are in favour of our views. So I do think, and I had been told, I was travelling around the West there last week, and this guy was guy up in Sligo there was telling me that people are really had enough of this mass immigration. They can see it affects how their children, they cannot get a house, they cannot afford a house, they cannot even rent an apartment.
of anybody to come to Ireland has a damaging effect on the lives of Irish people, and we must do something about it. So even as they're told ideologically, you must think this and you must, without question, accept this, well, people are still kicking up. And so that has been a change for good. Ray Bassett, who I met yesterday, is former ambassador to Canada, had a few drinks with him yesterday, and he was saying he's definitely noticed an uptick and more frequent interjections by TDs and all, which the speeches are much more Eurosceptic than they were even a few years ago. So even though we can see the success, certainly for me in the European elections there a few years ago, it's nothing to crow about or to boast about, but eventually we are starting to have an effect. So, let's get going, and what's the next one on the agenda? I'll give you the speeches.